Elements of design. Many people believe that if you buy a computer and some graphic software, that you're automatically a graphic designer. But to create good design that conveys information well and looks pleasing to the eye, takes more than a computer and software. It requires an understanding of the elements and principles of graphic design. Elements are the components or parts which can be isolated in any visual design or work of art. They're the actual things we add to a design, while principles tell us how we should organize those elements on a page or screen. In the next several podcasts, we'll discuss these elements and principles and how using them effectively will allow you, the graphic designer, to create well-designed visual communications. Let's start with the elements. There are 6 elements of design: line, shape or form, space, texture, value, and color. Lines. Lines form the shape of an image. They can be used to denote a specific meaning, from free spirit to disciplined. Alone, or in combination with other lines and shapes, they can aid in the readability, appearance, and message of a design. Lines are used to organize, texturize, guide the eye, and provide movement. They can be long or short, straight or curved. They can be horizontal, vertical, or diagonal. They can create patterns, be solid, dashed, thick, or thin. Sometimes, lines are used to divide or unite elements, or provide an anchor to hold elements on a page. Horizontal lines suggest a feeling of rest in relation to gravity. Vertical lines communicate a feeling of loftiness. Extended lines suggest an overpowering grandeur. Diagonal lines suggest a feeling of movement or direction, unstable in relation to gravity. Curved lines vary in meaning. For example, soft, shallow curves suggest comfort, safety, relaxation. These kinds of lines are used often in advertisements for vehicles. Deep, acute curves suggest confusion, turbulence, as in a violence of waves in a storm. Shape or form. Shapes are the basic forms that define specific areas of space. Shapes can be thought of as either two-dimensional or three-dimensional. A two-dimensional shape has width and height. A three-dimensional shape has depth as well as width and height. Shapes, or forms, can also be described as geometric, natural, and abstract. Geometric shapes are structured, often symmetrical shapes. These might include squares, circles, and triangles, as well as octagons, hexagons, and cones. Natural or organic shapes are found in nature, or they can be man-made shapes. They're often irregular and fluid. Leaves are an example of a natural shape. Abstract shapes are stylized or oversimplified versions of natural shapes. Symbols found on signs, such as the wheelchair shape for handicapped access, is an example. In design, there are 3 basic shapes. A square projects an attitude of honesty or equality. A triangle suggests action. It can also suggest stability if it is pyramid-shaped. A circle conveys a feeling of protection or infinity. Space. Space can be divided into two parts: positive space and negative space. Positive space refers to the objects and elements used in a design. Positive space is the area which contains all of the elements you have added to your design. These might include text, graphics, photos, lines, or shapes. Negative space refers to the shapes around and between those objects and elements. Negative space, or white space, gives a place for the eye to rest, which is needed in order for the message you're trying to communicate to be absorbed. It's a visual cue that there's a break in the content, or that the content is finished. Space can be used to both separate and connect elements in a design. Wider spaces separate elements from each other. Narrower spaces connect elements. Texture. Texture can refer to the actual surface of a design, with the reader actually being able to feel the texture of the paper and materials in the printed design. Texture can also be implied through the use of rich, layered graphics designed to give the illusion of texture in a two-dimensional design. Incorporating texture into a design will help create a feeling of richness and depth. Value. Value is the degree of light and dark in a design. It is the contrast between black and white in all the tones in between. Value can be used with color as well as black and white. It gives objects depth and perception, creating spatial illusions. Value is also referred to as tone. Color. Color, used in design, can convey moods, create images, attract attention, and identify objects. Color is an interesting element of design because it can be applied to any other element. A great deal of consideration should be given to color usage in design. In the next podcast, we will discuss color theory more in depth.